The stage lights blazed like a guillotine's edge. But it wasn't the roar of the crowd or the gleam of polished brass that stopped Amani cold. It was the venomous snarl slicing through the shadows. Get that black girl off those drums before she ruins us all. Amani, 15, stood defiant behind her kit, her dark skin slick with sweat under the scorching beams, her braids whipping like a storm as she gripped her sticks with knuckles white as bone. The all-white band froze around her, their instruments trembling in unsteady hands, and in that explosive, heart-stopping instant, the auditorium wasn't just a venue. It was a powder keg primed to blow, and Amani was the match, burning bright and ready to ignite. Lincoln High's band room was a chaotic haven, a cluttered labyrinth of crumpled sheet music, tarnished horns, and battered percussion where Amani had staked her claim. She'd stormed into the marching band a year ago, the lone black girl in a sea of pale faces, drawn by the primal thump of the snare she'd mastered on a thrift store kit scavenged from a dusty corner shop. Music was her bloodline. Her dad, a jazz drummer whose heart gave out when she was 9, had left her that legacy, his worn sticks now her sacred talismans. She'd spent countless nights in her garage, pounding rhythms into the dark, her mom's weary smiles a beacon from the kitchen. You've got his fire, baby. Let it blaze. The band was gearing up for the Carver Creek Festival, a marquee gig that packed the town square with hundreds each year, a stage where small-town pride met big-time stakes. Amani had clawed her way to lead drum after months of relentless grind. Her beats razor-sharp, her fills a detonation of sound that even Mr. Hargrove, the band director with his wiry frame and perpetual scowl, couldn't ignore. Her bandmates, Jake on trumpet, Sarah on clarinet, Ethan on sax, Mia on flute, and a dozen others, were a ragtag crew of awkward teens who'd grown to admire her quiet ferocity. But she was the anomaly, her presence a silent fracture in their insular, mostly white world. That Tuesday, the air thrummed with pre-festival jitters as they ran through sweet Georgia Brown, Amani anchoring the tempo with a groove that swung like a metronome on fire. Jake shot her a grin, his freckled face alight. You're a beast, Amani, pure dynamite. She smirked, twirling a stick with a flourish, but the warmth iced over when she caught a knot of parents by the door. Mrs. Susan Wheeler, a pinched blonde dripping in pearls, leading the charge. She's too loud, too wild, Susan muttered, her voice a dagger cloaked in silk. Those drums need someone softer, more refined. Jake's the fit, let's swap them. Amani's grip tightened, her pulse hammering like a bass drum in her ears. She kept playing, each strike a rebellion, but their words sank in her marrow, a chilling roll of doubt she couldn't drown out. By Friday, the whispers had grown fangs. Susan, a school board fixture with a knack for brewing tempests, rallied a posse. Mr. Dawson, a hulking mechanic with a buzz cut and a perpetual sneer. Mrs. Patel, a jittery hoverer wringing her hands. And Mr. Vance, a slick lawyer in a press suit with a smile like a shark's. At rehearsal, Amani felt their eyes like thorns, their hushed counsel leaking through the walls. It's not just her sound. It's her, Dawson growled, his voice a low rumble. Doesn't fit the town's image, Patel chimed, nodding nervously. Vance leaned in, smooth as oil. She's a liability, Jake's the polished pick. Susan's tones sliced deepest. Drums are the band's soul, and she's not right for it. We need tradition, not this disruption. Amani overheard it all from the hall, her sticks quivering like live wires in her fists. Not right for it. She'd smoked Jake in every audition. Hell, he'd laughed about it, dubbing her drum queen with a mock salute. Her chest ignited, a molten brew of rage and shame she couldn't choke down. She stormed back in, slamming her snare with a roll that rattled the windows, heads snapping her way like startled prey. Jake frowned, sensing the quake, but stayed mute. Sarah's clarinet squeaked, her eyes wide. Mr. Hargrove clapped for order, blind to the brewing storm. Focus up, festival's close. That night, Amani retreated to her garage, pounding her kit until her wrists screamed, the rhythm a primal howl against Susan's venom. Too loud? Too black? She saw her dad's ghost in the flickering bulb, his grin a lighthouse in the dark. "They don't get it, Daddy," she muttered, sweat streaking her face like war paint. "They don't want me there. Not really." Her mom peeked in, apron dusted with flour, her voice soft but forged in steel. "You're louder than their hate, Amani. Don't let him snuff your flame." Friday's rehearsal was a lit fuse teetering on explosion. Susan swept in, pearls clacking like gunfire, a petition clutched like a guillotine blade. "Mr. Hargrove, we've got 30 signatures. Parents agree Jake takes lead drum at the festival. It's what's best for the band's image." Dawson loomed behind, arms crossed like a bouncer, while Vance smirked, adjusting his tie with a predator's ease. Patel nodded, her fingers twisting anxiously. Amani froze mid-beat, her sticks hovering like falcons poised to dive. Jake stepped forward, trumpet dangling, his voice taut as a bowstring. "That's garbage, Mrs. Wheeler. Amani's the best we've got. I'm not stealing her spot." Sarah jumped in, clarinet clutched like a lifeline. "She's our backbone. You're way off base." Ethan's sax dipped, his slow drawl cutting sharp. "She's the beat. Period." Susan's smile didn't flinch, but her eyes turned to ice. "It's about presentation, kids. The festival mirrors this town. Standards matter. Optics matter." Hargrove rubbed his temples, trapped in a vice. "Amani's earned it, Susan, but I'll run it by admin. No promises." Amani's stomach lurched, her sticks clattering to the floor with a hollow thud that echoed like a gunshot. Earned it? She'd poured her soul into this. Nights perfecting every cadence while they'd sipped chai and dissected her worth. She bolted, the band's murmurs chasing her like vengeful spirits. In the hall, she slumped against a locker, fists balled, breath hitching in jagged sobs. "If they're gonna rip it away, strip it clean." Her dad's voice thrummed. "Hit harder, baby girl." She straightened, jaw locked tight. "They won't bury me." But the betrayal cut deeper. Later, she caught Mia, shy, mousy Mia on flute, whispering to Patel by the water fountain. Maybe Jake will be simpler, less drama. The word stabbed, a dagger from a friend she'd trusted. Amani turned away, her throat burning with bile. Even my own turn. Then Jake found her, his freckles stark against flushed skin. "They're full of it, Monty. I'm not taking your place." She nodded mute, but the sting lingered. Festival night glittered under a velvet sky, the town square ablaze with fairy lights and the sizzle of fry stalls, the crowd a buzzing hive of restless energy. Amani lingered backstage, her kit gleaming like a warrior's shield, her heart a jackhammer threatening to crack her ribs. Hargrove had called it dawn. Administration caved under Susan's onslaught, ordering Jake to lead. "I fought for you, Amani," he'd said, voice flat as a tombstone. "But it's Jake where you sit." Jake had balked, fists clenched like he'd punched the wall. "I'm not doing it, Monty. It's your gig, your soul up there." The band rallied, Sarah, Ethan, even rattled Mia, but the edict stood firm. Susan smirked from the front row, her posse smug as the band filed on stage without Amani. Jake sticks in hand, his shoulders slumped. The opener, when the Saints go marching in, limped out, Jake's beats timid, the rhythm a fractured stutter. The crowd shifted, murmurs rippling like unease through the stands. Amani watched from the wings, her sticks scalding her palms, her pulse sinking with the faltering tempo like a lifeline fraying. "That's my sound, my blood." Susan's his coiled back, not right for it. Rage surged, a tsunami she couldn't leash, her dad's echo pounding louder. Hit harder. She strode forward, boots thumping like war drums, and slid behind her kit mid-song, nudging Jake aside with a fierce nod. He grinned wide, stepping back like he'd been waiting for it. Susan bolted upright, hissing like a viper, but Amani struck, a snare roll like a thunderclap splitting the heavens, a bass kick that quaked the stage boards. The band stumbled, then locked in, her rhythm a lifeline hauling them into sync. The crowd erupted, feet pounding the bleachers, as she unleashed a solo, sticks a whirlwind, beats weaving a tapestry of fury and pride, her braids slashing the air like a tempest slash. Susan lunged for the sound booth, yanking a cord. Silence crashed down, the mic shrieking in protest like a wounded beast. "She's ruining everything," she screeched, her voice a banshee's wail, but the crowd turned, booze cascading like a hailstorm, drowning her out. "Let her play." A burly man roared from the back. Kids chanted, "Drums, drums." Jake dove for the chord, plugging it back with a defiant yank, and Amani hit again, her beat a phoenix clawing free from the wreckage. Then chaos peaked. Dawson stormed the stage, meaty hands grabbing for her sticks with a bellow. "Get off, girl. You're done." Sarah shoved him back, clarinet swinging like a bat, her voice a snarl. "Back off." Ethan blocked his path, sax raised like a club, his lanky frame trembling but firm. The crowd surged, a tidal wave of shouts. "Leave her alone." And Dawson stumbled off, red-faced and cursing, as Vance pulled him back, his lawyer's polish cracking under the mob's fury. Amani hammered on, her rhythm a defiant heartbeat drowning their venom, the stage shaking under her wrath. But the storm wasn't over. Susan darted backstage, cornering Hargrove, her voice a venomous hiss. "Cut her mic. She's a disgrace." Hargrove hesitated, then shook his head. "She's the show. Susan, deal with it." Amani caught his eye, a flicker of defiance mirroring hers, and she struck harder, the beat a war cry that split the night. The set closed in a blaze of turmoil and glory, the crowd leaping to its feet, a sea of hands clapping thunderously, Susan's posse retreating under a barrage of glares and jeers. Amani stood, chest heaving like a bellows, sticks aloft like victorious swords, her dark eyes daring the world to blink first. Jake slapped her back, laughing wild, his freckles stark against flush skin. "You're a damn legend. Monty, untouchable fire." Sarah hugged her tight, whispering, "We've got you always." Mia shuffled up, eyes downcast, her flute clutched like a shield. "I messed up. I'm so sorry." Backstage, Hargrove rubbed his neck, a rare half-smile cracking his scowl. "You broke every damn rule in the book, kid, but hell, you own that stage like a queen." Susan charged in, face a mask of crimson fury, her pearls rattling like chains. "This isn't over. I'll have you out of that band, you insolent little—" Amani cut her off, voice steel forged in fire. "Go ahead and try. I'm not moving an inch. You don't scare me." The fallout hit like a tidal wave. Clips of her solo flooded social media by midnight, tagged Drum Girl Slays Festival, racking up thousands of views, comments erupting, "She's unreal. Give her the crown." The next day, the mayor called, voice crackling with awe over the line. "Solo slot next year. Yours, kid. You've got this town buzzing." Susan's petition crumbled, her posse grumbling but outgunned by the town's roar, their whispers drowned by the echo of Amani's beat. That night, Amani sat in her garage, stick still, the silence a stark contrast to the chaos. Her mom slid beside her, flour-dusted hands gentle on her shoulder, eyes glistening with pride. "Your dad would have danced to that, baby. He'd have torn the roof off cheering." Amani nodded, a tear slipping free, her voice a whisper. "He did. I felt him in every strike." Monday's rehearsal crackled with a new electricity. The band fused tighter than ever. Amani's beat their pulsing lifeline they'd nearly lost. Jake handed her a stick he'd carved, Drum Queen etched deep in the grain, a quiet amends sealed with a grin. Sarah taped a photo of the solo to her locker, captioned "Our Heart," her clarinet now a badge of loyalty. Ethan slung an arm around her, his sax gleaming. "You're the pulse, Monty, don't ever doubt it." Even Mia smiled, tentative but real, her flute steady for the first time in days. Susan faded into the shadows, her influence a ghost retreating under the town's glare, but Amani knew the whispers lingered, sharper, colder, waiting to strike again. Didn't faze her. Each strike was her dad's echo reverberating through time, her mom's resilience forged in late-night shifts, her own unyielding flame, a rhythm no force could hush. The town whispered her name now, not as an outsider, but as a force, a beat that carved its own space in the dark. But the story didn't end there. A week later, a stranger rolled into town. Mr. Leon Carter, a grizzled black jazz drummer with scars on his knuckles and a battered suitcase, claiming he played with her dad decades back. He'd seen the viral clip, tracked her down. "You've got his soul, girl," he said, voice rough as gravel, eyes glinting with memory. "Let me show you what he didn't get to." He set up in her garage, sticks flying, and Amani joined him. Their beats a duet that shook the walls, a bridge across generations, a legacy reborn.